Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiujitsu Show. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And before we even get started, I finally get to say one thing for our listeners. Go to the website, bigjjshow.com. The t-shirt orders are working. Finally, after many people are going like, what's wrong with it? You can actually buy a t-shirt now. So if you want to support the show, go grab a t-shirt. But that's not quite as important as our guest today. So usually I just say the person's name and their rank and then let them explain it. But I want to say, so the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show has been around for 12-ish years now. And I started it with our guest, Shawn Kyle, when he was a white belt and I was a blue belt. And we said, our opinions matter. Let's talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and other stuff. And I think the first episode we talked about was like Steven Seagal stuff because that was just the funny stuff at the time.
And it's still funny stuff. I mean, to be fair, I still see it pop in my Instagram feed.
Absolutely.
He had a resurgence.
He did. But now, 12-ish years later, we have Shawn Kyle, black belt, on the show. And we're going to talk a bit about the journey, I guess. So, Shawn, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't miss it.
So, for our new listeners and friends, could you give a little background about yourself, your martial arts, journey, where you're at now, like what you're doing, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been all over the place, like, a lot of people in the Army and that lifestyle. But as far as like in the gi jiu-jitsu, I think the first class I maybe went to was in 2009 after the first time I had gotten sober and quit drinking. And I didn't really stick with it, right? And then, I still like had relapsed at that time. And this is the big news, Rob. I lied to somebody about being a black belt outside Texas Annie's many, many years ago.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the only reason I went on this journey was to make good on that lie. I told some random stranger at Texas Annie's that I was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, to put fear in them.
Well, you made good on the promise. I mean, you're just delayed by a bit. That's all.
Yeah. So that's the big reveal, guys. Yeah. So whoever that was, if you remember me from Texas Annie's.
Well, there you go. Like you've fulfilled and you've been a black belt for, was it about a year now, I think?
Yeah, a year.
Nice. Yeah. So what are you doing now? Teaching just jiu-jitsu and
Yeah, so training? I mean, after we left each other's company, I had moved around a bit. I lived in Washington D.C., was able to train at a lot of places around D.C. and just like roll into cool places like Ryan Hall. I trained with like Lloyd Irvin. I trained with Leo Dalla a time or two. And, got to roll with Muhammad Ali. Like that was an experience, a unique experience where dude just had something different, like when you roll with somebody and they just got something different that that you strive for, but it may be hard to have, And then as far as I moved back to Minnesota, I was in actually going through rehab, and there was a gym that welcomed me. And I was involved in that gym for another 6 years, went from purple to brown there. And then, all you can say sometimes is like, it just wasn't a place that felt like home anymore. And I had a match, a fight to win match against my current partner. We have a gym called Wrestle Jitsu. He was an alternate Olympian. He was a 10-time national champion, state champion, and wrestled for the Marine Corps. So we really focus on more of a grinding kind of jiu-jitsu. I like to call it effective jiu-jitsu. We have a number of like St. Paul police officers that train with us, a lot of people that actually use it in their job. So it's not a lot of like the maybe flashy And I sometimes I say modern jujitsu when I say, oh, we're going to start from a butt scooting position because that's really not realistic for a lot of people that might use this in their job.
No, it's absolutely right because I know like Randy has a lot of experience talking or doing defensive tactics and stuff like that, incorporating jujitsu into it. So like that's awesome that you keep the effective jujitsu. I do joke about the butt scooting. I start on my butt sometimes just because smash white belt doesn't make sense at this point, but got to learn.
Yeah, and I mean, if you know, like it's a safe way to train. It really is. If you're worried about injuries and playing past the guard game, but in the end, like most altercations start from standing. And if you can stay on your feet, you have a tremendous advantage. If you're the guy that takes the bad shot, you're gonna end up on your face.
And I think it's the intent too, right? So it's not there's nothing wrong with starting on your butt in a specific if you have specific intent to it. It's just the problem with it is the people that start every roll from that position, right? They're not getting the exposure to starting standing and having to defend against or recover from a takedown or execute a takedown and land in good position and then work from there because there's things that you lose in between if you're not doing those things, especially like you said, when it comes to law enforcement or military in a realistic setting. The fight doesn't start like that. So you need to get exposure to both ranges, in my opinion. So I definitely agree with that. There's nothing wrong with starting there if there's a specific purpose, but you got to get work in standing as well.
Yeah, and at one point, Rob and I mean, weren't we starting on our knees at a gym we were at?
Yeah, we were starting our knees at a gym.
And I mean, that I mean is just completely silly. Like looking back now, I'd be like, I'm gonna have to leave if you want me to start on my knees.
In all fairness, though, we basically did like took a corner of the mat and started standing quite a bit, though, like after
Yeah.
a while. So that's just kind of how it came to be. And no, I just like I do. There was a really good class I took this past week at a camp taught by former guest Rob Cole, and basically it was like a how do you help teach people how to wrestle and not be afraid of it? Because for whatever reason, jujitsu, the big scary thing is going from standing to on the ground, which is like basically what jujitsu is all about, anyways. Because I need to either control taking that person down to finish the fight, or in case I get taken down, how do I mitigate getting taken down? But if my experience getting taken down is first exposure in real time, like you're doing a disservice there to those practitioners.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure in Wrestle Jitsu, I love that name by the way. Uh, I'm sure you guys do a lot of work on getting up, wrestling up as well. And I think that's another piece of a lot of the modern jiu-jitsu that's lacking is sometimes we just agree to the terms of playing the game of jiu-jitsu and not recognizing opportunities just to stand up. And another shout out to Rob Cole. He has a whole system that he calls just stand up. I think he puts in parentheses safely, but you know, like it's getting back to your feet. I think you look at standing, initiating an engagement, standing and going to the ground and then working your game from there. But also, if you're on your ass, can you get back to your feet? And if not, if you're on top, can you stop somebody from getting to their feet? I think those are all essential skills that are lacking in a lot of modern jiu-jitsu schools right now.
Yeah, and just like you said, a tactical stand up, like that's something that should be ingrained in you when you're getting out of guard or you're, losing that position or you're moving from closed guard. Yeah, swing your leg back and stand back up, and have the skills to get the advantage where you're the person attacking, and getting the back. And the other thing I want to say about like the leg game. And I love heel hooking people. I love wrist locking people. I love submitting people in every single way, right? But I have never touched Jake's foot, my gym partner's foot, who is a Greco Olympian. I never even had the opportunity because he is so good at defending and pinning with his knees. Should you try to get an entry, that leg isn't going to work, and he's going to be, giving you a nice smother and fucking cross facing you. Sorry for the language.
No, you can use the language. It's
You know. So I mean, it just makes that leg game that so many people play irrelevant when you're at that level of wrestling.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. If you just crush the like you talk about the grinding, crushing jujitsu. Like, I'm a huge fan of it as well, just because I like to have that full control and make people not suffer, but like take my time.
Yeah,
And
I mean, with when you're pinning limbs every step of the way, every inch, you're pinning a different part, and you just put that all together. And I like to use the smear analogy, or like you're putting peanut butter on a piece of bread, or being a bag of cement, whatever it is. Like that's what just wears people down. So
well, something I wanted to talk about too was, we briefly mentioned this at the beginning because it is kind of rare in a sense to be able to document sometimes your early journey in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu outside of, some photos and some like inside stories and stuff like that. And I feel like, at least up to purple for you, because I think like between brown and now black belt, we didn't have you on, like you didn't come on the show, but like it's pretty well documented. At least the first days up to at least, I know for sure the solid blue belt days and
yeah.
into purple belt days. Looking back, because it is legitimate like 12, 13 years. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in your approach to jiu-jitsu as well as like the game itself that you play? Uh, since starting out, the days of we'll just go on the mat and try to crush each other as a white belt and blue belt.
How has my jujitsu changed?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, right now, I mean, I think it would be a tough question of when I was like a four stripe hungry blue belt. If that guy and strong from the gym too could best who I am now with just like going beast mode in a head and arm choke and a power double. So I mean it's an interesting question, but I think like learning like efficiencies and where I can be efficient and not use energy and use the least amount of energy to progress as much as possible. Like I think that would be probably the thing that I've learned the most during that time. I worked a lot on at my previous gym in like learning leg locks, leg game, 50-50. Again, a smaller instructor. So I didn't develop from rolling with really heavy people like I do now. Like we don't really have anybody under 200 pounds at my gym.
Damn.
I mean, it's a tough room. Um, but I would see those are a couple of the biggest changes, like finding efficiencies, finding what works for me, and then really, I would say in the last 2 years, really finding and going for submissions, and always be seeking the submission, because if you're not seeking it, somebody's seeking it on you, and like really having that at least a higher belt level, and having that philosophy, I guess, like going into your role, like finishing.
That is a good like take on it, at least from, 12-year journey. How about some of the challenges, I'd say, like, because I think sometimes a lot of people outside of, the actual white belts and blue belts kind of forget some of the struggles they have as a white belt, blue belt, stuff like that. What do you feel like some of the biggest jujitsu challenges you had back then were like kind of like for example, for me, it was when I was a white belt, doing an armbar from guard was probably the hardest thing I could do because all I had to do is throw my legs up over and that was it, right? I didn't have to like change my hips. I didn't have to like, rotate under the person. It just my arm bars are terrible and they don't work. But then like realizing like, oh, that was a challenge of trying to figure that out. Like, so what do you remember being like one of those big challenges as a white belt or a blue belt?
Yeah, well, I remember driving back from where we trained, and I was in tears because Chris Hardy had once again head and arm choked me, and I'm learning like how to defend this, and like, but I mean, the dude just could do that to me, and it was infuriating to me. And I mean, I would go home in tears, like, how could this guy beat me? I remember another moment, like when I actually like quit smoking cigarettes, when his Nick initials are CG. You know who I'm talking about, Border
Yeah.
Patrol.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, he submitted me as a white belt, and he was a little ahead of me, but I thought I should be able to beat him.
Yeah.
And he like cardio tapped me, and I'm like, I'm quitting smoking. Like, and those things in jujitsu that, like, you have to do. If you want to be good, you can't be smoking a beating a pack of heaters and then going to jujitsu class. You can do that and lift weights. I know a guy sitting right next to me that does that.
Oh, I know that guy too. That's impressive as
Yeah,
well.
so there he is. There he is.
So man,
Special guest star.
special guest star, Mr. Colt. But no, always good to see him too. But no, it's I will say, because I know like I'm bogarting Randy asking questions, I apologize for that. But if we're gonna go to the Chris Hardy thing, I mean, in all fairness, the guy face locked me so hard in a gi that I was slipping out of the rear naked choke attempt he had, and my eyelid got stuck between his gi sleeve material. He's just that strong. And I tapped, and he goes, "Did I choke you?" I said, "No, you were gonna rip my eyelid like off of my face. You had that so tight." But I mean, he's just a freak of nature in that
And
sense.
now I absolutely would not be upset about that, mad at that.
Yeah.
I would say, hey man, and now I would not get in that position with him. I would push, 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 let him shoot on me. Like, I know he's a black belt now, but I mean, I'd love to roll with him and see if he could still do that to me. But that's the difference in attitude, I think, over that amount of time, because we had a Matt Serra black belt. Do you remember that day?
Oh
Chris Hardy
yeah.
did the same thing to him. And he was like, I think I got to give my black belt back.
Yeah, that
And he'd
was
been training like 17 years under Matt Serra.
some people
Chris
just
has
have
been
that
training
in
like
there.
6 months.
Yeah, some people just have that latent strength, talent, whatever. So
That's one of my favorite things about jiu-jitsu, and we talk about it all the time. I feel like on the show is what jiu-jitsu can do for you, even just off the mats. Like you talked about quitting cigarettes and stuff like that. You start off the show with the big reveal, and it focused your transformation toward that direction. Now you're a black belt, and it's pretty cool to see that. But I also think, when you said about the Matt Serra black belt kind of getting frustrated, we've said this too. The belt to me is just a sign of time. All it is a sign of commitment because, I've gone to gyms before. I went to Wilmington, to Salty Dog, and there was a guy there that demolished me. I asked him what belt he was. Like, I don't have a belt. I just grapple. And it's just like, the mats don't lie, right? I mean, it is what it is. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's my favorite term. Like, you can question somebody's belt however much you want, but the mat don't lie. Like, and if you're hiding from people, people see that. If you don't take every role, like when you're a gym owner, like, I mean, I got a guy that's a St. Paul police officer, 25 years old, wrestled. I was telling Colt about this, and Rob. I think I mentioned it to Rob, but like, he ain't fun to roll with. I'm 48 years old, and he wrestled at North Dakota. Like, it's a rough day for me, But like, me as the instructor, like, I still have to, be there to help him with his jujitsu. And I mean, and I think that's what a black belt should be able to do. Like, when you have a guy like that and you're still able to make him good and be able to be a contest and challenge that guy when you're, twice his age and don't have the experience.
yeah, and that's an interesting thing to bring up about construction because also, like I think in my brain for this episode, the big theme was going to be like the progress. You know what I mean? Because the podcast has changed in so many ways. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. And you did actually lay claim, and actually I had to think about it. I'm like, you were absolutely right. One of the OG Brazilian Jiu Jitsu podcasts out there because it was you know, it's
We were getting like names that are still like now. I mean, like, and
yeah,
hanging out with some of the people. Like, we met Kurt. I mean, I don't want to name drop, but like, we went to a Kurt Osiander seminars, like VIPs. Like, that was had him on, and a lot of people that were very very relevant at the time.
yeah.
And George Valadares, who I competed against, and now is one of Heath Pedigo's, black belts, and has a huge academy in Texas. Like, it's a weird how like jujitsu has blown up by the people that stick with it, and like, that's freaking cool, like, and I saw him throughout I saw him at purple belt, brown belt tournaments, and we never competed against each other again, but
Oh, but that's really awesome. And, so the journey with all of that, like, because I remember that he was a blue belt when he came on and he talked with us. But I was going to say too, like, between the podcast, like progress, and then like our progress, like everybody, because then, Randy came on early too, and he wasn't a black. I think you were a purple belt, weren't you, when he came on?
I came on twice. I think one is a purple belt and one is a brown belt.
Okay. So yeah, everybody progresses. But now in that time frame, what do you what are your goals as an instructor? I know you already gave a little bit of insight into it with like, hey, I want to give everybody a good role, even if they're going to like, give you the challenge, but you can still make them good. But what are some of the other things you kind of have made like your core tenets of being an instructor for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and helping people out?
Well, number one, I know I can't make somebody love jujitsu. Like, like all the people that come in the door, kids that come in the door, I know that I can't make anybody have that relationship with jujitsu that I have or love it. And everybody loves it in different ways, you know? But like, for instance, I have a child student named Marco who came and he was getting bullied. He came because he was getting bullied at school. And in the almost year that he's been with us, now he stays like for the adult class so he can learn more. He went to Naga and competed. He's got lots of friends in school. He's a confident little boy now. And like he's just like always asks and he loves it, And meanwhile, we've had, 8 kids quit, like but like he's been learning the right way. I mean, it's not like a military boot camp class, but it's a mix between a wrestling practice, which is hard, and like we don't pander to like the hobbyist jujitsu style of like, yeah, there's a belt and a place for everybody here. Cause I mean, I think that's great for jujitsu that there is that, but that's not us. That's not my style. And so, I think that we're struggling to get adults with that mentality now where you can, well, maybe you can get on Ozempic and lose a lot of weight fast, but, you can be, like whatever and go in and, get a belt in 6 months. I cried. You were there when I got my blue belt.
Yeah.
I cried. You see anybody crying when they get a blue belt anymore? No, it's like they just got a free ice cream cone at Dairy Queen.
I mean, those are pretty sick, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I'll be happy with that. But no, you're right. It's a I'm a very mixed bag in that sense, and I know we've talked about it before too. Like I feel like some people can benefit from it, but you also can't just, hand out the ice cream cone just because, well, you hit 40 classes, congratulations, here's your blue belt. Because it's a disservice, and that's how you water down the art, and that's like you said, the mats don't lie. But I think like I do enjoy those grindy like practices though. Like maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, I don't know, but it's just like how do you get better? And sometimes it's getting the pressure put on you. Sometimes it's getting put in the oven and having them crank it up a little bit while I'm trying to, like pummel my way through this like roided up 30-year-old that,
Hey,
works
we
for a
got a
living.
roided up 40-year-old here. He
Hell
took
yeah.
me to the gym. Hey, and I want some verification here. Did I not go beast mode? Let him know.
He's still got it, Rob. He's still
Oh, I
got it.
believe it. I believe
Yeah.
it.
Hey, Rob, tell the audience what I used to say in the gym.
What's
As
funny
a
is I
good
was actually going
as
to
a
bring that up.
as a good measure that your workout is complete. This is and Randy, this is good for you to know about my character.
So, Sean, when we worked in the same building together at the first place we trained together, and so he'd be like, "Hey, lunchtime, we're going to go work out, and you're going to lift, and we're going to make you stronger." I was like, "Okay." Granted, I couldn't keep up with it, so I'm sorry. However, I remember one of those first days, he said, a sign of a good workout is at the end if your testicles hurt." And I said, all right, well, I think we're there. So it hurts, but it's true. It's
Yeah, you
true.
want
That's
a
how you know you lift it.
nosebleed or testicles hurting?
What was that?
You want a nosebleed or testes hurting?
I'd rather get the nosebleed, but that's how I know I put a lot of pressure into my work there. Is when my nose starts bleeding. But it was dedication to the art there for like what you were doing. Like it was it's a dedication that at least from the outside perspective, like you stuck with that, you kept doing it, you still got it, like Colt said. And it's this stuff that Randy was talking about, the stuff you do outside the gym that jiu-jitsu helps you with. And I know you're just a lifting, like you lifted a lot even before like jiu-jitsu, but yeah, it's still a tough thing. And, I'd like for people to earn their belts and their stripes in that sense.
Another fun fact is that Dr. Mike Israetel, that's got millions of followers.
Yeah.
I rolled with him at Kansas City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before he was anybody. Like nobody wanted to be his partner or my partner because they were both just huge dudes. And I rolled with that dude when we were both white belts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Was that Kansas City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I actually got their shirt, so I'm getting a name drop too. But
yeah, from Jason
yeah,
Bircher there.
Yep. Yeah.
That was a tough gym. I mean, because we were at that was kind of soft besides us, But I went to that grindhouse, man, and it was like a gauntlet every day. Like I was there for a mission for like a couple weeks, and that showed me that there's other jujitsu out there. There's people that train like this.
And like you said, it's just a different setting for everybody. And like whatever gym you want to do, like, that's your right. So outside of the making sure nobody gets their ice cream cone, what are some other things you kind of focus on as an instructor? Like maybe
that's a great question. I want, and you may disagree, many people may disagree, but I show the core techniques of my curriculum. And there is probably not much different than anybody else's, right? But like one of the reasons I left my past gym is because somebody who, like made me instruct a deep half guard in front of the class. And it wasn't the way he does deep half guard, and I did do it the way like the Bernardo Faria with the foot lockdown, squeeze at the thigh and then roll over through, right?
Yeah.
And that wasn't what he wanted me to do. And I had a bad day teaching second graders. And I was like, I'd never do that to anybody that was my friend or I liked, like in front of a group of people. So, I mean, and this is, I have like as guys are coming up to blue belt, I have them show a arm bar from guard or teach the class as a blue belt. And then I fix the stuff, but I want everybody to be confident that they can teach this and, bring it on to like whatever, their kids, their daughters, their sons or whatever, like, and I'm not going to be around forever. So, I mean, I think I focus on like teaching to teach at some point. So, you have the skill to pass that on. And then I'm very detailed. I'm step 1, step 2, step 3. What's step 1 for kids? And I mean, Randy, I taught elementary school the last 5 years, so I stole a lot. I learned, and I instructed in the military. But for children, like works for adults too. All right, let's break this down into doing this little part first. Get good at that little part, then we'll learn the next thing.
Yeah, no, that's a really good like method. I do joke around. I was like, I'm going to teach class like it's a kid's class, but no, you're right. It does work. The same stuff for children works for adults and whatever, and helping them learn how to teach as well. Because it used to be back in the day, like if you were a blue belt, you could teach class. It's not so common now, but like I know that people are not going to magically learn how to teach when they get black belt. Just like I talk about people learning wrist locks and leg locks at white belt and blue belt and stuff like that. Like, you hit brown belt and it's not, well, you should magically know how to defend against the knee bar or a toe hold or anything like that, or even get it correctly. So how do you get them that exposure beforehand to make them better? How to let them make those mistakes when it's like white belt, blue belt time. And then especially, and I disagree with this 100% as well, if somebody's doing something wrong, it's a little different. It's not my job to correct to the point where it's an embarrassing thing in front of a group of people, especially like if you're a higher rank than like the majority of the people in the room.
Yeah.
Because that's, what does that do? It's just like as a martial artist, you're supposed to encourage, you're supposed to build, and you're supposed to develop people. At least that's my opinion. And you do the exact opposite when you basically pant somebody in front of the class and then say everybody laugh. Like it's bullying behavior almost.
Yeah,
Well, and the thing is too, I mean, arm bars look different to brand new white belts or blue belts than they do to people that have been in the game for 17 years.
yeah,
And so everybody's going to take something different from what they're seeing, what perspective they currently have. So I agree with you. If somebody teaches something different than the way that I would teach it, that doesn't inherently make it wrong, right? Um, you may go around the room to some of your more advanced people and give some details or some guidance that they need because of where they're at. And the other people can benefit from what the blue belt just showed because they're white belts and they don't know any different. And at least they're in the ballpark of what they need to be looking for. You know what I mean? I also disagree vehemently with the idea, and I fell victim to this because I didn't learn anything about leg locks and attacking entanglements and all that until I was a brown belt. I'm vehemently against that concept completely. We should be learning that shit from day one, just like we do anything else.
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I guess that goes into the growth part of jiu-jitsu, and especially like, you talk about your gym having Jake the Olympian there and then having you there as a black belt, like you're getting two of the best like inputs into the first part of jiu-jitsu. And, it's not a like for when I ran a club, and I know you ran a club because we actually ran a club at the same time, just in two separate areas
Yeah.
of the world. I know we talked a lot about it too. It was like I remember having to make up like certain rules and stuff and named them after practitioners in the gym because of them, but like as a joke. So like not to make fun of like actual like Megan's Law or whatever, but it was stuff like we had Alex's rule, and the rule was you're not allowed to do stand up with anybody unless they have two stripes on their white belt. Because we had a guy who came in, he was like, "Hey, I want to stand up," and one of the blue belts at the time said, "Absolutely, let's go stand up." Alex had never done any standing before, like it was his first day in class, and the blue belt hits him with an Ippon Seoinage. Beautiful throw. Don't get me wrong, it was a great throw. Alex didn't land right. Boom. Like not crushed his ribs, but bruised his ribs, and he was going to OCS in a few weeks. So
Yeah, and I mean, and that's another thing.
yeah,
Injuries happen,
yeah,
and they can derail a journey for like, I mean, and I want to say this at my previous gym, like, this was a blue belt and I was a brown belt, and dude's big. He was also a teacher. Everybody loved this guy. I love this guy, but he rolled hard like me, and he was pushing into me, and I hit a osotogari, and when you're putting your leg on the inside, I bent my leg. So I was not in the, necessarily in the wrong. I didn't reap. And then I just felt his whole knee crumble. And I mean, he was out for like a year. I mean, it felt everything, it was so gross.
yeah.
But,
Yeah, but I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, all of us have experienced injuries, put us out for a little bit. I mean,
It's
it's
still it's still a combat sport at the end of the day. You can't make it 100% safe for everybody. It's impossible.
so with, the injury stuff as well. Do you do like any encouraging of your students to come watch or like roll differently or roll lightly or like,
yeah, I do. And I've had like one student like take me up on that, but I've also, and I'm going to refer to my other gym because there's a lot of great stuff that they did. And like I even worry like that kid Marco that I'm talking about, like he doesn't have partners at my gym right now. And for wrestling is huge up here in Minnesota. And like the kids join where they have tough partners because it's competitive, like in the wrestling. Whereas jujitsu is a little different. So like there are actually huge wrestling like private schools up here. You know
no,
what I'm saying?
no, I do know
But
what you're saying because I know it's like a huge thing up there. I always laugh because I wrestled in North Carolina and I didn't get my full. So like the further north you go and the further west you go, it's like it gets just progressively harder and harder. At least it was when I was in high school because I remember I was like this 189 pounder. I was like, yeah, I'm a senior now. This is going to be great. And I remember wrestling somebody from New York and they beat the brakes off of me. And why it's because between there and like you said, Fargo and like, the Midwest, Iowa, Minnesota, all those places, like you guys are wrestling from an early age and it's competitive. Whereas like they finally started doing clubs here where you can wrestle younger, but it's not quite as competitive.
But like, I mean, but now for like a student like Marco, who's progressing really fast, I'm like, well, he doesn't really have partners to challenge him at this point. And he's coming to adult class. And so, I mean, like, that's when it's important. Like, I care enough about my student where I would refer him. Like, if you want him to be like a little Pan American champion, you might have to move him to like even my old gym. They have a wonderful kids program. I can't say anything negative about it. You know, I helped them build it. And I mean, that's the way I think about it. I want what's best for everybody for their goals. Like, you know, like I'm not going to get anything to sitting on my butt trying to heel hook people for 2 hours. You know, like that's not my enjoyment, fun game. Like, even though I like doing it, but you know.
No, I totally get that. I mean, it's a selfless thing to be an instructor, or at least a good instructor, because there's some not so good selfless instructors out there, but that's just how it is with everything. So, making sure your students grow is kind of a huge thing. And like cross training, like you said, having that ability to say like, maybe it might be better for so and so to go here, or hey, I think you'd really benefit from here. Because I mean, like I know there's going to come a time, and there's been times too where people have come to the club or whatever, and we're like, yeah, you probably benefit way more here because we like gi here, or sorry, it's a little too tough. Like, there are some other gyms that might be better suited for you. Like, like I said, I'm not gonna call them like soft gyms or whatever. It's just some people just want to do it in a certain way, and and that's okay. Because I mean, you talk about age and stuff. 48. I finally hit my 40s a couple years ago, so the joints in the back and everything kind of don't run like they used to, if you know what I mean. So if a new
Oh,
guy is coming in and they're like 50, I mean, we have a guy that I do judo with, he's in his mid 50s, and it was kind of like, I can't just run the Oguruma on him and just land on top of him. It's not it's not conducive to it, but I guess it's just a balance thing, and like being able to be comfortable and confident enough to say like, like you said, you want the best for the student. So what do you do to give the student their best chance to succeed in jujitsu or grappling or whatever?
yeah.
So it's not a wrap up just now, but I know that this has the capability of turning into a long section of the episode. That's why I want to start it a little early.
Yeah.
Things you want to leave people with about jujitsu that you've learned. Anything and everything. Like, it's I'm searching for the old hard drives because um in the transfer between one
There were
podcast
still
hosting.
some on Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about like you and me. Okay, so originally the way I'll give everybody the story. The way the podcast started was Shawn and I were like, we can make a podcast. When do we want to do it? What are you doing tomorrow? Nothing. Okay. Well, we had a microphone that needed power, and the only thing that could power this microphone with one of those plugs was a keyboard that Shawn, like a music keyboard that Shawn had. So we ran the microphone into the keyboard. Then we ran the output from the keyboard into my laptop and recorded it through the laptop. And we did it in his kitchen, which the reverberation was disgusting. And we ran it and we're like, sounds real good. This is really good. These are the opinions that people need to hear about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from. And
A
I thought
white
it was
belt and a blue belt.
from a white belt and a blue belt. And what's funny too is like we still kind of try to hold that on the show, just because you're a white belt or a blue belt doesn't mean that your opinion's invalid, because we've all different perspectives, obviously, right? And so, that's how it started. And when we did the migration from like one hosting like platform to another, we lost a lot of those early episodes online. I've got two or three hard drives, like portable hard drives here that have the old episodes on them. I'm trying to figure out how to get them back uploaded without like bombarding our poor listeners with like, hey guys, great news. You missed 3 years of episodes. So here's like 300 extra episodes. Go crazy. And just like they pull up their Spotify and it just completely covers it. So I'm trying to come up with a plan for that. But we would just talk about whatever. So it's anything and everything. So in this jujitsu journey that you've been through, what would you want to pass on to listeners, white belt through black belt, like listeners, stuff that you've just advice really that you want to pass on to them?
Yeah, and my visitor here, who none of the listeners know, but you'll remember Adam Ross at Shoot Box.
Yeah.
And Adam was a blue belt, and I was just kind of like, and I love jujitsu, like I really did, and I grew up wrestling, and then trained some MMA, and then lied to some people about being a black belt. It started with you, and then Adam was real good, and like when he showed up to train, and there was one role where stayed after, and I'm gonna say it was way beyond what a timer roll would be, and I just survived. And I ended up, I think, Ezekiel choking him or something, and like he was beating me the whole time, and it was like, I get it, survive. And then, like after my dad had committed suicide, and you knew my dad, and I got, the jujitsu tattooed on my fingers in bumfuck Wisconsin, Hickston, Wisconsin, when I was cleaning restrooms at a truck stop. You can't make this up. And so I go to like the one tattoo shop in middle of Wisconsin and say, I want jujitsu on my knuckles. But when I look at that, I see survive. And that has really helped me out in life. Some really hard times that I've gone through. Like I always just think like if you survive, you can win. And clearly, you get tapped out so frequently, and life is such a hard thing. But the one thing it's given me is resilience. I think I had it to a degree, but it's given me connection. Like whenever I've traveled Germany, like wherever I've been, all across the United States, Alaska, it's given me a connection to go meet people that were, oftentimes cool. Not obviously not everybody's cool. Not everybody's cool at your job, but yeah. And and then it gives you stuff that you don't expect. Like you remember, I love watching Joao Miao do the Berimbolo. I fucking got a video of me rolling with Joao Miao as a brown belt. And I was the only person he rolled with at the seminar. And everybody was like watching and being like, oh, dang, you almost had, that's a moment like in no other sport that you can have is like to get to roll with somebody that they're like your hero, or you really respect what they do, and to have that opportunity. Yeah. So, those are a couple of my lessons from the journey. And, that's how we met. We've been best friends since. And, like I've just not quit, I didn't know that when I left my last gym, I was like, man, maybe I don't need to do jujitsu anymore. And then the guy that I had a match against was like, dude, you're tough. I want some of that stuff that you have, and this is coming from like an Olympian, I'm like, okay. And then he asked me to teach for him, and I didn't even plan it. And then he's like, well, do you want to just kind of maybe do this project? And I'm like, yeah, why not? And so, you never know what it's going to bring you. And I think that's been fun. And, I talked to you about your journey, and everybody has their own. Some people never leave that comfort of the gym that's 2 miles from their house. They never go compete, and they make black belt. That really doesn't matter to me. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings now, because I know, like, if you come to my mat, gonna be a rough day. So yeah, that sums up a lot of things.
That's a good perspective. And like, like I said, we keep talking about the journey. I appreciate that you've, been a part of mine as well, and like vice versa and stuff like that. And it is like the advice is sound. The lessons you've learned are amazing. And I hope that like, the listeners do take that to heart, because yeah, the shit sucks. Jiu-jitsu, I hate it some days. Like I still sometimes would be like, you know what? This is the dumbest thing I could be doing for myself. Like I wake up in bed and I can't like, roll out of bed. I'm just like stiff. I'm like, this is stupid. Why do I do this to myself? But like you said, the lessons are the things that kind of make it completely worth the effort, worth the grind, worth the slight pain and suffering. But it just got to focus on me, basically, at that point.
Yeah, that and stunting on white belts. Randy, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, man.
You like stunting on white belts?
If they're douchebags, maybe. I don't know, man. Oh man, that's funny. No, I agree with the lessons you're putting out there, man. I mean, you learn so much more from those masks than just jujitsu, you know. It's been there for me through some tough times too, and I know a lot of other people has been there for through tough times. And yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And yeah, have fun stunting on some white belts too. Why not?
We love our white belts though, but I will occasionally stun on them on occasion of
Oh, you
getting.
got to. If they go across my teeth, you're getting wrestling Shawn coming out.
Yeah, I had one of my guys rip something hard and I said, "Okay, prison rules it is then." And then you remember that was it basically like that fetal position like pin I do and then like hop up to like an arm bar.
Yeah,
Had to do that a couple times.
with the knee on the rib.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Ugh.
I
We
mean,
didn't. We didn't tell them about the grunting we were doing. They got us kicked out from women's
oh yeah,
kickboxing.
that's a good story to end on, just to kind of talk about how, and I'll let you run that story. That's a really good story.
So Rob and I couldn't. Neither of us could get each other out of side control, and I still do this with my class once or twice a month, where we just drill holding in side control for the entire class, back and forth, or we gauntlet people. And Rob and I, before class, like an hour before class, we'd go in and let's be like, bro, let's try to get out of side control. Like we wanted to get better for like an hour. And there was probably some grunting going on, Randy, audience. Like while the women's kickboxing class was going on. And apparently we had offended some of the women folk, and were asked by a Brazilian instructor to no longer do extra work prior to class. So, yeah.
So you got the lunk alarm sounded on you like at Planet Fitness for putting in some work.
I was at Planet Fitness yesterday, and my buddy actually warned me because, I mean, it's just part of I'm just built like that. And I was grunting a little bit, like doing some weights on the Smith machine rack. And I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I really, got to put a little effort in there. If you're not getting hemorrhoids from the gym, you're doing it wrong.
So you're telling me when I hit my PR back squat this year and my gooch hurt that I was doing it right, that I got to go.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Dude, we send out t-shirts for people that get that accomplishment.
Well, Shawn, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. It is 12 to 13 years in the making. See, the problem is I don't recall correctly. Throw back another reference there. The exact date when we did it, because I have to go back and look through the old files, but I need to get those. But thank you for coming on, man. Like it's awesome to talk to you and catch up on the podcast as well as we do semi regularly in general. But
yeah, and I'm super honored that you asked me to come back on, and like I listen. it's great to still hear this perspective and on ecological training, like you had. I guess that, and who, like, wasn't he the inventor of like the ecological like method?
we're talking
Or
about Rob Cole. Yeah,
yeah,
was he didn't invent it, but he's very heavy into it and has a lot of good like perspectives, and like a lot of the classes he taught that I took this past week were eco based. So it's very it was cool to get that perspective in person as well.
yeah. So yeah, I mean we're all just trying to make it fun. Like I think it was fun. That's why we did it, because we had fun doing it, and I just like want to make sure everybody that goes there has fun, laughs at my terrible jokes and comes back, or learns something or plants a seed, to come back another time. But I do want to end my stuff with this. Okay? Jiu-jitsu is not for everybody. It is not for everybody. Who is ever spreading that fucking lie? It's not for everybody. It's not for soft people. It's not for quitters. It's not for people who just want to be an asshole or to, like it's not for all veterans. All veterans are not great people, you know? So it's not for everybody. It'll help a lot of people, but it isn't for everybody, but it might be for you. So go check it out.
That's solid. I like that. So, Shawn, like I said, thanks, man, for coming on. I do appreciate the hell out of it.
Yeah, I hope none of my opinions were too controversial.
No, not really. I mean, like I said, we've said way worse on the show, so it's fine. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to go check out our website, bigjjshow.com. Support however you want, or don't. Just listen to us because we love you anyways. But I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And this was Shawn.
And we'll catch you guys next time.